Maryland is coming off of a very disappointing season in 2024. We're going to break down the schedule for 2025, give you an early projected record, and see if there's a chance that this team maybe turns it around this upcoming season. Maryland's schedule in 2025 does give them a chance. To possibly have a much better season. Here is that full schedule, and we'll start with the non-conference. So yeah, this is going to be one of the easier non-conference schedules in all of college football, at least in terms of Power 4 teams. You got Florida Atlantic, Northern Illinois, and Towson. So this is a very, very easy schedule. They don't play any Power 4 teams. They don't play, Northern Illinois is a pretty good team out of the MAC, so you're playing at least one decent Group of 5 team. But overall, yeah, this is a really, really easy non-conference schedule. Let's look at who they play at home and away in the Big Ten. They're going to play Washington, Nebraska, Indiana, and Michigan at home. So some pretty good teams there. And then on the road, it's at Wisconsin, UCLA, Rutgers, Illinois. And then Michigan State's not a true road game. The game will be played at Ford Field in Detroit. So it's basically a road game for Maryland. But yeah, again, playing that game away from home. So that's who they play at home and away. Let's look at how their schedule changed, at least in the Big Ten from last year. They remove Iowa, Minnesota, Oregon, Northwestern, Penn State, and USC, and they add Illinois, Michigan, Nebraska, UCLA, Washington, and Wisconsin. So we'll first look at who they lost. Iowa's a pretty good team. Minnesota was pretty good last year. Oregon, obviously, one of the better teams in the Big Ten. Penn State right there at the top as well. USC, a solid team. So they did remove several good teams, but they add Illinois, who figures to be a top 25 team again this year. They add Michigan. Michigan is a team that, really could be really good this year. Nebraska, a team that I think is on the move up. They're looking better. And then Washington, Wisconsin, UCLA. Those are going to be, games that maybe Maryland has a chance to win. So I would say that the schedule gets a little bit easier in the Big Ten, but it's pretty similar to what they had last year. And again, this is a Maryland team that went just 4-8 last season. So they'll open up with Florida Atlantic on October 30th. Then they play Northern Illinois on the 6th, and then Towson on the 13th. So 3 non-conference games right out of the gate, all of them at home. Pretty easy opponents. So you like the start there. No reason why Maryland should not be 3-0 heading into their first Big Ten game. That'll be on the road at Wisconsin on September 20th. And then they get their first bye week. So one Big Ten game, then a bye week. Then they get Washington and Nebraska, both at home. They'll play Washington October 4th, Nebraska October 11th. A chance to, if this Maryland team really turns things around, their schedule gives them a chance. As you look at UCLA next on October 18th, a chance to go into that bye week. Maybe 6-1, 5-2. A chance to get off to a pretty good start with this schedule. Again, no reason why they shouldn't be 3-0 going into that Wisconsin game. But yeah, you look at Wisconsin, Washington, Nebraska, UCLA. I think those will be tough games for Maryland, but I wouldn't say they can't win them. And so if you win a couple of those, yeah, a 5-2 start, that would be great for Maryland. And then you get into the rest of the schedule. They'll start there with the whole month of November here, 5 straight games. They'll play Indiana on November 1st. That'll be at home. Then you got Rutgers and Illinois, back-to-back road games. Rutgers on the 8th, Illinois on the 15th, and then Michigan at home on the 22nd, and close out with that game against Michigan State on the 29th. So after that second bye week, a pretty tough stretch. Michigan State's a game they could win. Indiana, Rutgers, maybe they have a chance. It's really just going to depend on this Maryland team and how much they improve, if they do improve. If they're similar to what they were last year, I think it's going to be another rough season. But if they can take some steps forward, there are winnable games on this schedule. So how does it stack up with the other teams in the Big Ten? It's right there at the middle, right there in the middle. So if you look at their opponents from last year, their 2025 opponents went 39-42 last season. So they had a 48% win percentage. And like I said, that's right there in the middle. But what really makes this schedule a lot easier, though, of course, is that non-conference. And if you get off to that 3-0 start, then they only need 3 wins in the Big Ten to potentially get to a bowl game and have a little bit of a bounce back year in 2025. Before we get to the projected record, just want to let all of you know we do have a Maryland channel now at the Voice of College Football. Brand new show going to be starting here in the next few days. So make sure you check that out if you're a Maryland fan. There'll be a link down in the description below. After a rough year in 2024, let's see if the projection looks any better in 2025 for Maryland. And here is actually, before we get to the schedule, let's look back at the projections from the last 4 years. So in 2021, they were projected to go, again, with our projected record formula, projected to go 6-6. They went 6-6. In 2022, projected to go 6-6. They went 7-5. In 23, projected to go 7-5. They did go 7-5. So actually, if you look at those 3 years, 2 of them right on the mark, and then one they did beat the projection by 1 game. But last year they were under the projection by 2 games, projected to go 6-6. They went 4-8. But interesting that the projection has been 6-6 3 out of the last 4 years. So here is that schedule, and this is the scale that we use, and this is all based off of our tier rankings. There is no human element here. It's all based off of the math and the numbers. So Maryland is a tier 5 team, which means if they play another tier 5 team, it's going to be a 50-50 game. If they play a tier 6 team, then the game will be in the purple, 61 to 70%. But if that game's on the road, then it becomes a 50-50 game. So that's kind of the way it works. Let's get right into it, and we'll start with the easy wins. You got Towson and Florida Atlantic, FAU. These are games that Maryland should win. Obviously, Florida Atlantic's probably closer to 80%. And then, anytime you've got an FCS team, that's going to be close to 100%. But those are your easy wins for Maryland. And again, a pretty easy non-conference schedule. But Northern Illinois is not a team you can really count as a guaranteed wins. We've got that one in the blue. I do think Maryland's probably a double-digit favorite in this game. 10 to 13 points. But it's a team that did beat Notre Dame last year. One of the better teams out of the MAC. So you cannot overlook that opponent. Maryland should win, but not guaranteed. So those are really the only games where they're going to be clear favorites. If we go to the other side of this, and we've actually got Illinois in the red. And again, this is where the human element comes into play. I don't know that I'd put that one in the red. Honestly, I think Michigan's probably going to be a tougher game than Illinois. But Illinois is a tier 2 team, and the fact that that game is on the road, when you look at Indiana and Michigan, also tier 2 teams, those games are at home, and that's why they're not in the red. They're going to be in the orange. So they're in that 20 to 29% range. It is at home for Maryland, so there's a chance they pull off an upset maybe in one of these 2 games. But obviously it'll be very tough. They probably will be 2 touchdown underdogs at least in these 2 games. All right, how about games in the yellow? We actually have several of these. So these are the games again where Maryland's going to be an underdog, but not a huge underdog, and they should definitely have a chance to maybe pull off at least 1 win in these 4 games, just kind of based off of how the odds usually play out. Wisconsin on the road, you've got Nebraska, you've got UCLA on the road, and then you got Michigan State, which is basically a road game as well. These will be tough. And if Maryland is going to have a good year, and if they're going to have a chance to maybe get to a bowl game, they're going to have to win one of these games, at least, in my opinion. You got to win your 3 non-conference games, you got to win one of these, and then you got to finish out and win both the 50-50 games. And that would be Washington and Rutgers. So Rutgers is in the same tier as Maryland. They're in tier 5, so of course that's a 50-50 game. Washington is in a tier above Maryland, but that game's at home for them, so that's why this one is a 50-50 game. So those are ones, again, if Maryland's going to get to a bowl game, they probably have to win both of those games, and then they got to knock off one of these teams in the yellow. That's going to be tough. I wouldn't say it's impossible, but it's going to be tough. And then, of course, you can't overlook Northern Illinois. You lose that game. If Maryland loses to NIU, I would say they probably have pretty much no chance of getting to a bowl game. That's just kind of the way it is here. So a tough path to get there, but there are some opportunities with some of these opponents. So what's the projection? Well, the projection actually comes out to 6-6, so a little bit higher than maybe I would have expected. Now, I will say it was closer to 5-7 than it was to 6-6. Or excuse me, it's closer to 5-7 than 7-5. The number was like 5 point. I can't remember the exact number. It was a little over 5.5. So yeah, if I'm putting an over/under on Maryland, I'm probably putting it at 5.5. But a projection of 6-6, pretty, that would be a good season in my opinion. So if they do win those 3 non-conference games and you split the 50-50 games, that means they pull off 2 upsets with Wisconsin, Nebraska, UCLA, Michigan State. Maybe you throw Indiana and Michigan in there as well. If those games are in the red, then this projection would obviously be a lower, and it would not have them go into a bowl game. But just having a little bit of a chance to win those 2 games does give them a chance to potentially and get to 6-6 and bounce back in 2025. What are your thoughts on Maryland? Let me know down in the comments below. Give me your projection. And of course, memberships now available here on the channel. If you'd like to get early access to videos like this and much more, you can check out all the perks. There's a link down in the description below. Thank you guys for watching, and we'll see you on the next video.